Hello friends, let's learn a new topic today. That's ecosystem. We'll start with the did you know? The study of interaction between the biotic and abiotic components of an ecosystem is called ecology. Scientists who study ecology are called ecologists. The topics that we'll be covering in this video are ecosystem, biotic and abiotic components, food chain, food web and pyramid of numbers, interdependence between organisms, and the forest ecosystem. Let me introduce you to this new topic. The systematic arrangement of components in a system is called organization. When the arrangement of components is in order of hierarchy, that is, from simple to complex, it gives rise to different levels of organization. The living world is a highly organized structure that can be divided into various levels. The organization becomes increasingly complex as we move up from the lower level to the higher level. The higher level of organization consists of systematic arrangement of life from a single living thing to a biosphere. Hierarchy in higher level of organization is as follows: organism, population, community, ecosystem, and biosphere. Let us see each of these terms in detail. Population. Organisms cannot live independently. They depend on each other for a living. Organisms that are structurally similar and breed among themselves to produce young ones are called species. Group of organisms of the same species in an area forms a population. Group of people, herd of cows, and flock of pigeons are some examples of population. Community. The different populations that live in a defined area and interact among themselves form a community or a biotic community. For example, in a forest community, there are populations of different insects, plants, and animals. Similarly, a desert community has populations of different desert plants and animals. Ecosystem. Organisms adapt themselves to the surrounding environment. An environment includes both biotic and abiotic components. The interaction between various biotic and abiotic components of the environment forms an ecosystem. Pond ecosystem, river ecosystem, forest ecosystem, and desert ecosystem are examples of natural ecosystem. An aquarium or a garden is an example of man-made ecosystem. Biosphere. All the ecosystems of the world combined together forms biosphere. It is the highest level of organization in the living world. Self-test 1. You can pause the video and try to answer these statements which are given incorrectly. You can send the correct statements in the comment section. A flock of pigeons is an example of ecosystem. Organisms of a species cannot breed among themselves. Different populations habituated in a defined area is called an abiotic community. An ecosystem is formed when the interaction between the environment and different community. Biosphere constitutes the lowest level of organization. Components of an ecosystem. An ecosystem consists of two components, biotic and abiotic. All living organisms, including plants, animals, insects, and microorganisms, constitute the biotic components of an ecosystem. All the non-living things, which includes light, water, soil, climate temperature, and wind, constitute the abiotic components of the ecosystem. The biotic components are producers, consumers, and decomposers. Let us see each of these in detail. Producers. All green plants come under this group. They are also called autotrophs as they prepare their own food by utilizing sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water in the presence of the green pigment chlorophyll which is present in leaves. This process is called photosynthesis. Consumers. Organisms that cannot prepare their own food and depend on plants or other animals are called consumers. They are also called heterotrophs. Consumers can be broadly divided into the following types: primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, and the omnivores. Primary consumers are also called herbivores. They are animals that eat only plants. Examples are cow, sheep, goats, and deer. Secondary consumers are also called carnivores. Carnivores are animals that eat other animals. Examples are tigers, lions, and leopards. Some carnivores feed on dead animals. They are called scavengers. Examples are vulture and hyena. Tertiary consumers. Animals that eat secondary consumers are called tertiary consumers. Examples are snakes and eagle. Omnivores. Consumers that eat both plants and animals are called omnivores. Examples are human being, crow, and bear. Decomposers. Decomposers are usually microorganisms and worms that feed on dead plants and animals. And in this process, they convert complex compounds into simple nutrients that go back into the soil from where the plants can use them. In other words, these are the cleaning agents of the environment. Let us now see the abiotic components which constitutes the light, air, water, soil and temperature. Light. The sun provides light and heat which are essential for all living organisms to survive. Most animals are active during the day. Such animals are called diurnal animals. Earthworms, millipedes, owls and cockroaches are some exceptions. These animals are active during the night and are called nocturnal animals. Light is also used by plants for the process of photosynthesis. Air. The atmosphere contains air, which is a mixture of gases such as nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon dioxide. All living things need oxygen to respire. Plants use carbon dioxide to prepare food. Nitrogen is also essential for the growth of plants. Water. Water on earth is found in ponds, lakes, rivers, seas, oceans, and many other water bodies. These water bodies are also home to many aquatic animals and plants. Water is essential for both plants and animals to survive. All metabolic processes like digestion, circulation, and excretion need water as a medium. Plants need water for photosynthesis. Soil. The topmost layer of earth is soil. Soil has minerals, water, air, living organisms, and humus. Humus is the remains of dead plants and animals combined with soil. Soil constituents are used by plants for growth and development. Temperature. Most organisms on earth can survive in temperatures between 0 degrees Celsius and 50 degrees Celsius. Temperature tolerance level varies from organism to organism. Heat generated by the sun is regulated by water and air present on the earth. Along with this, different organisms have different methods to regulate their body temperature. In deserts, temperatures are very high. In such conditions, plants show modifications such as fleshy stems and elongated roots. Some animals like snakes, lizards, and rats live in holes and burrows under the ground to escape the heat. Animals living in cold regions become inactive and sleep during the winters to store energy. This process is called hibernation. Self-test 2. Give one word for. Here, you'll have to pick out the right word from the box given below to match the statements given. The statements are layer of air around the earth, the topmost layer of the earth's surface, organisms that prepare their own food, organisms that depend on other organisms for food, part of earth that contains water. The options are hydrosphere, producers, consumers, atmosphere, and lithosphere. Pause the video and find the answers to these questions on your own. Post your answers in the comment section. Interactions between the biotic and abiotic components. The biotic and abiotic components in an ecosystem interact continuously with each other. For example, plants and animals breathe in oxygen and release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Plants take in carbon dioxide to carry out photosynthesis. Decomposers break down dead organisms and release their constituents into the atmosphere. Flow of energy. The sun is the primary source of energy. Producers use this energy to prepare food. Food prepared by producers is utilized by them for life processes and some of it is stored. This stored food is used by the consumers. Plants use the energy from the sun to prepare food. When a herbivore eats a plant, only a fraction of this energy gets transferred to its body. The rest is lost. When a carnivore eats the herbivore, only a fraction of the energy obtained by the herbivore gets transferred to its body. The rest is lost. This way, flow of energy from producers to consumers involves energy losses at each stage. The flow of energy and the count in ecosystem can be represented through an energy pyramid. Food chain. Herbivores eat plants, carnivores eat herbivores. Thus, one living thing becomes food for another. The series of living things depending on the other as a source of food forms a food chain. It shows how producers and consumers are linked. Every food chain starts with producers. Consumers feed on producers. For example, a worm eats grass. Grass is a producer and worm is the primary consumer. The worm is eaten by a bird. The bird becomes the secondary consumer. Similarly, in a forest, plants are the producers. Insects eat the leaves of these plants. These insects are eaten by frogs. Frogs in turn become food for snakes. In this case, insects are the primary consumers. The frog becomes the secondary consumers and the snake is the tertiary consumer. Food web. Primary consumers feed on one or more producers. Similarly, each secondary consumer feeds on one or more primary consumers, thus forming interlinks in simple food chains. These interlinked food chains are called the food web. Food webs maintain the balance in nature by connecting more producers to consumers, thus ensuring enough food is available to all animals to live and survive. Consumers are connected to two or more types of food sources to survive in conditions where there is scarcity of one's food source. Interdependence between organisms. An organism's interactions with its environment are needs for its survival, and it also aids in the functioning of an ecosystem as a whole. The effects that the organisms in a community have on one another are called biological interactions. This can involve individuals of the same species or of different species. Sometimes interactions are direct, and sometimes individuals may affect each other indirectly through shared resources or common enemies. Predation, symbiosis, and parasitism are some examples of biological interactions. Let us see each of these in detail. Predation. It is a mechanism in which an organism, known as the predator or the carnivore, feeds on another living organism known as the prey. Predator prey relationships are essential to maintain balance in an ecosystem. Examples of predators are jaguars, bottlenose dolphins, snakes, baleen whales, etc. Symbiosis is a close relationship between two species in which at least one species benefit. For the other species, the relationship may be positive, negative, or neutral. Mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism are the three basic types of symbiosis. A symbiotic relationship in which both species benefit is called mutualism. Example, goby fish and the shrimp. A symbiotic relationship in which one species benefits while the other species is not affected is called commensalism. For example, mites attach themselves to larger flying insects for a free ride. Parasitism, a symbiotic relationship in which one species benefits while the other species is harmed, is called parasitism. Some parasites live on the surface of their host while others live inside the host. Example, roundworms are parasites of mammals. Interdependence between plants and animals. In nature, plants and animals depend on each other. Let us see how. Plants depend on animals as insects and birds help in pollination. Grazing animals and birds disperse the seeds of plants. Soil is made soft for the movement of air by earthworms, thus aiding plant growth. Dead remains of animals make the soil rich with nutrients. Carbon dioxide released by animals is used for photosynthesis in plants. Let's see how animals depend on plants. All animals depend on plants for food directly or indirectly. Plant products such as oils and spices are also consumed by humans. Many animals find shelter in trees. Oxygen released by plants is used by animals for the process of respiration. Balance in nature. The interdependence of plants and animals creates a balance in nature. If the total number of plants decreases, then the number of herbivores depending only on plants would also decrease. Carnivores and omnivores would compete among themselves for food and survival, thus creating an imbalance in nature's food pyramid. So, to sustain a balanced environment, appropriate number of producers, consumers and decomposers must be a part of the environment. Nature maintains this balance in the environment. However, human intervention or natural disaster can disturb this balance. Let us have a look at the largest ecosystem on land, that is, the forest ecosystem. A forest ecosystem consists of different kinds of plants of varied heights and sizes. The parts of the tree above the stem, including the branches and leaves, is collectively known as a crown. Depending on the type of trees, there are different shapes of crowns. Trees belonging to the genus Pinus have tapering crowns, while a neem tree has a crown that looks like a globe. The ground of forest is covered with leaves and shrubs. Various kinds of animals dwell on trees and forests but at different heights. For example, birds live on the top branches of the trees while monkeys make the lower branches as their home. Depending on the height of the trees and the types of animals that live there, forests are divided into 4 layers. That is, the emergent layer, canopy layer, understory layer, and the forest floor. Let us see each of these terms in detail. Emergent layer. The branches on the topmost layer of the tallest trees is known as the emergent layer. This layer is at a height of 40 meters from the ground and receives sunlight in abundance. Preying birds like hawks and eagles live on this layer as it is easier for them to spot the prey. Canopy layer. This layer is formed when trees growing close to each other appear as a roof over the rest of the 2 floors below. The canopy measures from about 20 meters to 40 meters above the ground. It has abundance of food. Hence, it is a dwelling place for many birds, insects, and monkeys. Understory layer. This layer of a forest starts from the foot of trees and goes up to 20 meters from the ground. The canopy blocks the sunlight, so this layer has shade. All the lower branches of the canopy trees, shrubs, bushes, and smaller trees are a part of the understory. Many birds, insects, and few animals, such as leopards and sloth bears, live here. Animals such as deer, bison, elephants eat the herbs shrubs, and dwell in the understory. Forest floor. This is the ground layer of a forest. The soil is moist with water, containing decaying leaves, fruits, and animal matter. This layer of forest is home to rabbits, snakes, frogs, earthworms, fungi, termites, and insects. The decomposers present on the forest floor decompose the dead plant and animal matter to form fertile soil known as humus. With this, we come to the end of the video. Like the video if you understood the concepts that were explained. Share it with your friends so that they can also learn interesting facts. Subscribe to my channel for more videos on related topics.